villager able to wield a sword has been sent to the armory. My lord?
Who am I, Camling?
You are our king, sire.
And you trust your king?
Your men, my lord, will follow you to whatever end.
To whatever end? Where is the horse and the rider? Where is the horn that was blowing? They have passed like rain on the mountains, like wind in the meadow. The days have gone down in the west, behind the hills, into shadow. How did it come to this?
Recent times I had sent you a number of documents that actually support what you said. And our biggest concern, the reason Doc Chambers and I are here today, is we work as a team to understand both the science and the legal ramifications. And what I wanted to impart to you is under 42 CFR Part 70 and 71, that's the enabling statute for Health and Human Services to assume power upon the declaration of a public health emergency. They've already done that, as you indicated, with the COVID crisis. That has resulted in the suspension of our Constitution. It's already happened. The next one is coming. In that statute, you will see that Marburg is already identified. You will note that the PrEP Act has a Marburg provision that allows for additional spending when invoked. The Health and Human Services has already invoked the Marburg provision, meaning they've already parted ways with money and spent it under the HHS enabling statute to build quarantine camps, amongst other things, throughout the United States. We interrupted two, one of which was in Cochise County, Arizona, where they were going to build a $1.9 million facility that houses the now merged 4 branches under HHS. The judiciary, law enforcement, corrections, and public health are now all one and the same, and they're all housed in the same facility. So all of these quarantine centers are there. We understand that there could have been a Marburg release that Dr. Chambers will get into. We think that one has already happened. We know that Marburg is not particularly contagious, but it has an extraordinarily high rate of fatality, and we know the mechanism by which this will be released, and that is inside of these shots that people already received, inside the lipid nanoparticles, the hydrogel, there exist pathogens inside of the particles that have not yet opened. Those pathogens are chimeric. They include E. coli Marburg, Ebola staphylococcus, and brewer's yeast, amongst others. We know that upon the broadcast from the 5G system that is now employed across the United States, and the world for that matter, when they broadcast an 18 gigahertz signal for 1 minute, 3 different times as a pulse, it will cause those lipid nanoparticles to swell and release these pathogenic contents, thereby causing a Marburg epidemic that they've already spent the money on. It's already done, right? The Marburg epidemic, for purposes of the law, has happened. And now we just need the actual disaster to happen. And there's actually worse parts to it than that, including the 1p36 gene deletion that effectively will turn those poor people into zombies. As odd as that sounds, our government's preparing for that.
But the FEMA have already put out zombie commercials and ConOps on that, correct?
That's correct. If you look at Con Plan 8888, Stratcom put that out in 2011. On page 2, they say, "Oh, this is just for examples, just for demonstration. You know, don't worry about it, so we don't offend other countries." The problem with that is, you look through that Con Plan, it's all about 5 different types of zombies. There isn't anything in there about opposition forces. There isn't anything about winning political battles or counterinsurgencies. It is only about a zombie apocalypse, defending it. And you will see that every NIMS compliant, practically, agency or whether that's state, local, or federal, has already had their zombie apocalypse preparedness training. They've already done their practice. The CDC has had a zombie apocalypse preparedness website up for the last 5 years. Now they've reduced it to a PDF cartoon. Even in the Amazon Web Services contract, the force majeure clause, I believe it's Article 41, states that we're not liable for damages in case there's a zombie apocalypse. This is coming, folks, and the serious adverse event report Pfizer put out post-marketing, they had put out as part of a FOIA. The number one serious adverse event was the 1p36 gene deletion. You look up the symptomology for that, it is the elimination of the frontal cortex and a propensity to bite. What's very odd about this is this was the symptom post-vaccination. That disease is a congenital disease. It means you're born with it. So how is it then possible that this is the number one serious adverse event from the Pfizer shots? It's here, folks. And then you got Dr. Chambers here to tell you I'm not just a raving lunatic.
No, these are both very serious, credentialed folks and patriots in their fields. I just met Doc Chambers, but just hearing his military resume impresses me. And Todd and I have known each other for quite some time. So, and I also now work in corporate competitive biotech intelligence only for the good guys. That's my company is GreenX, which is genetics, robotics, information, nanotechnology. Don't talk about that much, but it's but so I have some understanding of what's going on here. And so the lipid fat is what encases the delivery, and then it is activated and released by pulsing the 18 gigahertz. Is that correct, Todd?
That's exactly right. Think of the lipid nanoparticles as little bummers. And what happened is the various manufacturers of these shots included 3 separate HIV proteins in each of them, including the AD5 adjuvant. The reason for that was to disarm people's immune systems so that those little fat bombers could go inside of the cell and deliver their payloads in order to reprogram the person's body to produce synthetic DNA. In this case, they call it S proteins. When they turn that Marburg switch on, it will be M proteins, and it will cause people to produce the Marburg pathogen themselves. First and foremost, from a documentary point of view and self-legal help, Vax Choice, VAXXchoice.com. There's a full repository of everything that we're talking about is there, and other things. Self-help legal documents, and if you sign up, you can get a daily update. There's no donation button. There's no nothing. We just put this out for people's benefit. Separately, there's truthforhealth.org. Dr. Lee Vliet is in charge of that, and she's put out a Marburg fact sheet along with some things that we can do to try and stop what's coming, or at least prevent it. Just like the COVID situation, there are medications that Dr. Chambers can talk about. There are therapeutics. Of course, the CDC got rid of those therapeutics in its advisory, saying only thing that you can do to treat Marburg is a vaccine. There's one actually already prepared for this. I think it's getting its emergency use authorization right now, which also tells us this is going to happen. Secondarily, yesterday we got information from a source, from a whistleblower, showing us that they are now training people on urban collection, isolation, and detention in reference to public health emergency. So they're now training it. This training happens next week in South Carolina, once again in July. I'm sure that this is happening in more than one place. The United Nations has already hired people, specialists in quarantining that is on their payroll. That happened last year. I haven't seen if they've done it more recently. My point in telling you this, folks, is that we have tools to not fall for this again. There are therapeutic drugs that are available. I think one of them is called Fen-Ben in the 444 milligrams. And then I understand from talking to doctors in Africa that have treated this, that ozone, either IV or insufflated, also tends to work. So I also have one whistleblower inside of FEMA who said that the plan is to scare the hell out of everybody and scare them into going to the quarantine centers because they don't think they can collect everybody by themselves. That the doors will be open, and then of course in there you will get your mandatory shot because you came in voluntarily. So what we
Shabbat Shalom, Yasharallah. I hope all is well. I didn't play that just now, those two clips, to scare anyone or frighten anyone. And I don't know if I firmly believe what that man was just saying about the about what was in those jabs, about the 5G whiz button that will activate these things. I've talked about this for this whole time. I made videos about it. I made videos about that con plan 888 years ago about the zombie thing, and it's more than likely going to happen, like that man said. I don't know if it will happen on October 4th or not, but let me tell you why you shouldn't be surprised if it does. I told y'all about the eclipse that's going to happen on 10/14 on October 14th. But I don't know if I mentioned, if I shared the news about the emergency broadcast that's going to, the emergency message that everybody's going to get on their phone on 10/4, on the 4th of October. I think I might have mentioned it. I don't know. I've been telling people about it. But that day, I think it's at 2:20, you're supposed to get a message on your phone from the emergency broadcast, whatever. And so don't be surprised if it happens that day. And not just because of the emergency broadcast. Let me tell you why you shouldn't be surprised. So I was sitting there thinking today after I watched that TikTok, and I was thinking about all the invasion stuff, the southern border stuff, right? And I was thinking, like, well, why would they have allowed all those immigrants in here and they didn't get a shot? Like, what's their role gonna be? Because I was under the impression that they were coming across and they didn't have to take the jabs, but I was wrong. Look right here. This middle, the CBS one, where it says U.S. expands the jabs of migrants in border, whatever. And this is from that article. That 2,700 they were hoping to distribute 2,700 per day in the first phase, and that they would be able to do it to give out 6,000 per day by May of 2022. Well, I never found any information to tell me that they did that they gave out those kind of numbers. But don't be surprised, because look right here, the second paragraph from the top there, it said at the time, officials said offering the jabs to migrants could be a draw to crossing the border without authorization. Well, wouldn't that be I mean, if you just think about it, they probably caused hell all down there in those South America countries, Nicaragua, all them places, and these guys did, and they caused the mass migration of them people to come across the border, and them people, they might not have the same means that we do to collect information. And they probably were scared to death that maybe it was a draw. Maybe they were enticed to come here. Because I've showed you all the all the 144 stuff, all the stuff regarding the 42 and the 24 with the southern border. I've shown you that. And on Thursday night, the NFL's first game, the first game of the year, went down between Kansas City and Detroit. And it was in Kansas City. And before the game, the NFL aired a commercial where they were mocking the idea that the NFL is scripted. And they meant, right at the beginning of the commercial, they mentioned that this was it was like taking place in the studio, and they had football players and actors and stuff in there, and they were there, it was a joke, to go over the script, how they were going to script the season. And they said, okay guys, we're here to work out the script of the NFL's 104th NFL season. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, Well, that night, when the game went down, the first touchdown was scored with 10 minutes and 4 seconds by a man named Amon-Ra St. Brown, wearing number 14. And his name in gematria equals 104. And Kansas City, KC, if you just like, if you go by the simple gematria, because they called it KC all night, and you know people call Kansas City KC. If you go by the simple gematria, K is I think it's the 10th letter, and C, it's the 11th letter, and then C is the 3rd letter. 11 plus 3, that's 14. And you know that all just might be coincidence. I'm not telling you that that's what's going to happen on that day. I don't know, but something's fishy about it. It's got my suspect meter, just off the chart right now. I can't tell you what's going to happen. I don't know. But I have been telling you that there is a place for your escape. And I only tell you that because it's in the Word of the Most High. You've seen that clip in the beginning of the movie The Two Towers, that was directed and made by the same guy that made I Pet Goat 2. And I don't know if you've noticed or not, but it's all the talk on the internet the last few days that the day after I made the video talking about mirror on the wall, when I laid out what that I Pet Goat 2 is really about, and it really is about that. You ain't gonna be able to prove me wrong on that. The day after I made that, I released that video, the Helio font channel and website was removed. The Helio fonts, the company, the man that made the Two Towers and made that, it was his company. Him and his company put that I Pet Goat 2 out, which was released on the 24th, which I read even more about it today. It took him, he started making that in 2005 actually, and never released it until 2012. And I read some comments from him where he was talking about making it. And look, what I've been telling you for the last year or so, especially for the last 4, 5, 6 months, that's what the story of I Pet Goat 2 is. It's the same thing I've been telling you. And don't you think it's a little odd that when I finally figured out that that's what I Pet Goat 2 is about, and I made a video about it, and the next day they took all their stuff off the internet, And that video, they didn't take it down because it wasn't getting views. That thing gets watched. It's probably been seen billions and billions of times. It's a moneymaker for that company. There's whole websites and YouTube channels that have been created just around that little cartoon. There's something up with them just taking it down, and all these people on YouTube are talking about it, and on Facebook, and they're speculating. They think that they figured out what it's about, and that it's about this 923 stuff, and that is in there. That 923 stuff is in there, but trust me when I tell you, it's about coming home in the image of the beast, the imposter. Now, in the beginning of that, on that two tower clip that you saw in the beginning, you heard that king at the end. He said, how has it come to this? How has it? You see all these people, all these quote unquote Christians, they can't figure it out. They can't figure out how the world, the economy, the state of mind, the all this transgender stuff, how it's came about. The people only want to obey the voice of the Most High when it suits them. When it suits them. They pick and choose. If you are someone who understands that we must follow the Torah, right? And I'm pretty sure most of my listeners are that type of person. You understand that, right? Well, then you understand that is what's called obeying the voice of the Most High. You heard in that clip right before he said that, he asked the question, he said, how has it come to this? He said that they're used to, what happened to the horse and rider? That's what he said. He said, what happened to the horse and rider? What happened to the horse and rider? What happened to the horn? You should know what the horn is. I call this phone, this YouTube, my horn. This is me doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm trying to go above and beyond for the Most High. I've laid out so much scripture right here for y'all to listen to and to go do your due diligence. Do I not always tell you that? Go, and because obviously you must not have got the memo, and you must not have believed what I've been telling you about coming to the set apart place. But I've laid out so much scripture where he says that, where it's in the scripture. That's obeying the voice of the Most High. If you don't come, if you ain't went and looked at it, you know what that means? That means you've chosen not to obey the voice of the Most High. Beloved, Myshpicah, you best figure it out. You heard what that man said about the quarantine camps. I've been talking about it. You know what's been going on, and you know what's about to go on. Whether it happens on the 4th of October or not, it's coming soon, fastly approaching. It's got the pedal to the metal. And the only thing wrong with this picture, as far as we're concerned, is you don't. You ain't in the car with it kicked. or 2 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse what? Verse 4. 10:4. Do you get the message? 10:4, good buddy? For the weapons we fight with are not fleshly, but mighty in the Most High, for overthrowing strongholds. Strongholds. The enemy uses this word just like we're supposed to, but he don't obey the word. Myshpicah, beloved, don't wait until it's too late. Don't wait until all the roads are clogged and you can't make it around the block without those people snatching your ass up and taking you to one of those facilities. And either way, somehow they kill you up in there when you could have done what the Messiah has told you to do, what I've been echoing for you to do, to flee to the mountains. Don't wait till it's too late. You've been told. I'm out.